Hi, it's opening weekend at this bike park and I've got a Specialized Enduro Elite. That was easy. Once again, a big thank you to Specialized Concept Store in Gothenburg. Seems to be an endless supply of nice demo bikes over there. The very first thing that strikes me with this bike is how big it is. This is a size S5, that's extra large in normal terms. But this compared to the Status, the Specialized Status that I tested a few months ago, this bike seems as if it is twice as big as the Status. Yeah, so this is a very big and burly bike, so I was a bit concerned whether this bike should feel like a barge or if it is a fun bike to ride in mellow terrain. I'm not paid to say this, but I don't know what it is with Specialized bike that make them feel so dialed and alive. Specialized seem to know what they're doing basically. If you want to, it's very easy to pop over jumps and with confidence too. Compare this section with the e-bike up front. This is one size too big for me, but I honestly could live with this bike despite the size. For being one of the largest bikes I have ever tested, it feels very agile when cornering too. It rolls fast, perhaps because of the tires, and I had no trouble whatsoever to keep a good pace. First and foremost, this is an enduro bike and there are loads of enduro related items on this bike. So let me show you some details. So down here nice and low sits the shock. It's a RockShox Super Deluxe Select Plus, and the plus means that you have a lockout here. And this shock is connected together with a 6-bar linkage system which aims to move the rear wheel backwards and upwards so it doesn't get stuck on things. And the bike also have a plate to protect that rear shock from spray, dust and mud and whatnot. And the cassette is a 10 to 50 tooth cassette if I remember correctly. And that front chainring is a bit smaller than on other bikes to protect it from getting damaged. And there's also a chainstay protector here which makes this bike very quiet. And there's a protection plate underneath as well. And there's a secret compartment too where you can store bananas. This bike looks very long and it probably is, but I don't know the numbers. And the chainstay looks very long too, but maybe that's an optical illusion or something because it doesn't feel like it on the trail. The chainstays are 442 millimeters long across all sizes, which isn't super short. So I really don't know how this big bike can turn in so well. For its size, the bike feels pretty nimble and predictable at the same time. But in all honesty, the enduro handles turns better the faster I ride, and not surprisingly, it is incredibly stable at higher speeds. This is the first time a bike gets a full 10 out of 10 in our Wheeling Wilmer score, and that is impressive since Wilmer is only 14 years old and the bike is at least 1 or 2 sizes too big for him.
But this tray is red, so it's a little bit more enduro I guess, but I got an enduro bike so.
The wheels are the reliable Roval Traverse aluminium wheels. The tires are the Butcher Grid Trail, which aren't exactly my favorites in the wet. But today the trails are dry with patches of loose sand, and under these conditions the tires work fine. The excellent suspension helps to provide with all the grip that can be sucked out of these tires.
Yeah.
Are SRAM TX, which I like very much, and the brakes are Code RS, which I also like very much. I have tested most Shimano equivalents, but so far these are my favorites. Very powerful and very easy to modulate. The fork is a Lyric Select Plus, and that plus means that it's got a compression switch. It's 170 millimeters both front and rear. Could argue why use a Lyric fork when there's a Seb fork available or a Fox 38, but I think higher specs models do have Fox 38. I need to check that and write it down here. But for these more family-friendly trails, this fork is definitely enough, and this is the first time that I test a 170 millimeter version of the Lyric. It's pretty difficult to explain this rear suspension the best way to put it is that it's very, very good. It's both calm and confidence inspiring and poppy at the same time. So going over jumps with this bike is both fun and easy as well. So for me, as an average mountain biker, this whole suspension setup is actually my absolute favorite so far in any bike. Here are 3 annoying things with the Specialized Enduro. Tire choice is always a personal preference thing, and in these conditions the butchers work well, but I know from experience that there are grippier mud tires out there. There will always be a trade-off, and the focus with this bike is descending. There are lockouts available for better efficiency. The bike is simply too much when it comes to longer cross-country rides, and I guess that the intention with this bike is not for that purpose. Here are 3 good things with the Specialized Enduro. That was unexpected from my part. For being such a big bike with a 29er in the rear, the Enduro turns in pretty well, and that pop in the jumps, fun times. I never feel underbiked with the Enduro. This bike can take on any trail. The suspension does a great job of flattening out the terrain, making it easy even for me to keep a good pace. I thought that my new favorite analog bike was the short travel Specialized Epic Evo, but I clearly need to reconsider. For bike parts, the Enduro is king.